Who should you speak to if the work of another contractor is affecting your safety? The contractor, the contractor's supervisor, your workmates. A worker finds a way of working that is quicker than the method statement they have been given. What should they do? Get more work done so they can earn more money. Continue to follow the safe system of work for the task. Inform work colleagues so they can work this way. Get their work done more quickly so they can leave early.
Which two topics should be covered in a site induction? Local amenities, local transportation links, site emergency procedures, holiday entitlement, site rules. If you notice that a design detail can't be built in the way it has been drawn in the plans, what two things should you do? Raise the issue with your supervisor before you start work. Leave that detail out altogether. Only make the changes when they are approved in writing. Keep quiet, as it will mean more work for you. Build it as you think it should be done.
Before you enter a construction site, what actions must be in place? The Health and Safety Officer must have given you permission. You must be authorised and given a site induction. Your site supervisor must have given you permission. You must have a trade skill to be allowed to enter.
When creating a risk assessment, the severity of harm is multiplied by what? The area of the construction site, the cost of injury or harm, the likelihood of harm occurring, the number of workers on site.
Which two of the following would be found in a safe system of work? Criminal records check, security clearance, outline of the hazards, national insurance numbers, sequence of work.
What is the main reason for attending a site induction? To get to know other new employees. Site rules and hazards will be explained. Permits to work will be written and handed out. To create the method statements for the site.
What is a toolbox talk? A sales talk given by a tool supplier. A short training session on a particular safety topic. Your first training session when you arrive on site. A talk that tells you where to buy tools.
In which document should the safe way of carrying out a task be described? Order sheet, instruction manual, work programme, method statement.
You have witnessed a serious accident on your site and are to be interviewed by a Health and Safety Executive, HSE, inspector. What should you do? Cooperate and tell the inspector exactly what you saw. Ask other workers what you should tell the inspector. Not tell the inspector anything and ask them to talk to your supervisor. Ask your supervisor what you should tell the inspector.
What does the word hazard mean? The construction site accident rate, a type of removable barrier or machine guard. Anything that could cause harm. The likelihood of something happening.
Which of the following two factors should be considered first when conducting a risk assessment? The financial impact of the assessment. Potential negative publicity associated with incidents. Name and address of the workers. The likelihood of the hazard occurring. The seriousness of harm that could occur. What should a worker do if they feel the task they are doing is no longer safe because of weather conditions? Stop working immediately and inform the supervisor. Carry on working because they are following the method statement. Carry on working if others are doing so. Work until the end of the day, then tell the supervisor. Which two things should workers be briefed about when starting work on site for the first time? The name of the company owner, welfare facilities, public transport timetable, overtime payment schedule, emergency procedures.
What are two possible consequences for you if your employer does not prevent accidents and ill health at work? You won't get the training required to continue working on site. You will have to work longer hours to earn more money. You will have worse welfare facilities on site while improvements are made. You may not be able to work, which would affect your income and family life. You may suffer an injury, affecting your health and well-being. If someone is injured on site, where should this be recorded? In an accident book or record, on the Safe System of Work plan, on the site plan, in the method of work.
Which two of the following are the employer's legal duties towards people at work? Provide them with free transport home. Inform you of hazards and risks at work. Supply meals free of charge. Pay wages and overtime directly into the bank. Provide and maintain clean welfare facilities.
Why is it the employer's legal responsibility to discuss matters of health and safety with employees? So that employees will never have to attend any other health and safety training. So that employees are informed of things that will protect their health and safety. So that your employer will not have any legal responsibility for employees' health and safety. So that employees do not have any responsibilities for health and safety. Who is responsible for managing health and safety on site? Building inspector, site manager, health and safety executive, HSE, contracts manager.
Showing consideration to neighbours of the site and members of the public is whose responsibility? Only the client of the project, the site supervisor, everyone working on the site, the health and safety officer.
What are two of the main reasons why the Health and Safety at Work, etc. Act 1974 is important to construction employers? It tells employees who is working on site. It lets workers know how to carry out a task. It puts legal duties on all employees. It states how to make legal claims after an accident. It puts legal duties on all employers.
The whole work site has been issued with a prohibition notice. What does this mean? Finish the job and go home. Do not use any power tools. Continue with site work. Stop work because the site is unsafe.
What should all risk assessments identify? How to report accidents. The employer. The hazards in the work environment. The Health and Safety Executive, HSE. Employers must provide workers with instructions that meet which requirement? In a format each worker understands. Available in audio. Downloadable from the internet. Written in large print. How would you expect to find out about health and safety rules when you first arrive on site? By reading the health and safety policy in a letter sent to your home. During the induction, by asking other workers to show you around. If a worker fails to report a near miss, what could happen? The site manager will be sacked immediately. The company could go out of business through neglect. The employee could get a large fine. The near miss could be a serious accident next time.
What should workers follow whilst at work to meet their health and safety duties? The actions of their workmates. A safe system of work agreed with the employer. Their gut feeling on safe practices. Direct orders from the Health and Safety Executive, HSE.
What should a worker do if the helmet they are using is damaged? Report it at the end of the day. Put a sticker over the damaged area. Replace it immediately. Use it but keep checking it. Which of the following is your legal duty as a worker? To write risk assessments for site tasks. To continue to work until all tasks are completed. To report anything thought to be dangerous. To write method statements for site tasks.
Site rules and procedures are the responsibility of whom? Work colleagues, investors, the employer, the Health and Safety Executive, HSE.
When workers arrive on site, what is the first thing they should do? Walk around the site to inspect the work from the day before. Make sure that the site team knows they are there. Get their tools out of the store and start work. Enter the site by the easiest route and start work.
A risk assessment is undertaken for what purpose? To identify hazards and control risks at work. To find out who was responsible for an accident. A way of reporting risks to the client. To act as an incident register.
What should you do if you cannot do a job in the way described in the method statement? Contact the Health and Safety Executive, HSE. Make up a better way to do it and carry on. Do not start work until you have talked to your supervisor. Ask other workers how they think it should be done.
What are two possible consequences for employers of not taking measures to prevent accidents and ill health at work? They will need to employ more people. They will lose time and money due to the cost of any accident or ill health. They could be fined or imprisoned. They will have to change the site layout for emergency vehicles. They will damage the environment. What is the main reason for understanding the fire and emergency procedures on site? To know what tools and equipment can be used during an emergency. To help you to get time off work in an emergency. To stop anyone leaving site in an emergency. To know where the fire exits and assembly point are in an emergency.
Why is the Health and Safety at Work, etc. Act important to you as a worker? Give two answers. It states how to make legal claims after an accident. It tells employers who is working where on site. It puts legal duties on all employees. It puts legal duties on all employers. It states how employees should carry out a task. After watching you work, a Health and Safety Executive, HSE, inspector, issues an improvement notice. What does this mean? You need to improve the standard of your work. You are not working in a safe way. Your work has improved since the last visit. You are not working fast enough. What should you do if the safety rules given in your site induction seem out of date as work progresses? Speak to your workmates to see if they have any new rules. Speak to your supervisor about your concerns. Make up your own safety rules to suit the changing conditions. Nothing, as safety is the site manager's responsibility.
Who has legal duties under the Health and Safety at Work, etc. Act 1974? Only self-employed people. All people at work. Employees only. Employers only. General site rules would not normally include information about which one of the following: site induction procedures, near-miss and accident reporting, names and addresses of workers, personal protective equipment, PPE, during the site induction, you do not understand something the presenter says. What should you do? Guess what the presenter was saying. Ask the presenter to explain it again. Wait until the end, then ask someone else to explain. Attend another site induction. In the accident book, the company contract manager, someone from the Health and Safety Executive, HSE, the injured person or someone acting for them, the first aider identified on site. While working on site, you cut one of your fingers. What should you do? Report it at the end of the day or the end of the shift. Wash it, and if it is not a problem, carry on working. Report it and get first aid if necessary. Clean it and tell your supervisor about it later.
Which type of accidents should be recorded in the accident book? Specified injuries only, such as broken bones or a death. All accidents causing any kind of injury. Any injuries requiring treatment in a hospital. Only accidents where time off work is required.
Which two of the following would result in you being ordered off-site? Being under the influence of alcohol, driving downhill with a heavy load, driving without using the flashing beacon, being under the influence of drugs, losing your road user's driving license. What is the main objective of carrying out an accident investigation? To help track the cost of insurance claims. To place blame. To find the cause and prevent reoccurrence. To identify the people involved.
Under what circumstance is a worker allowed to operate a plant vehicle? If they have a full international driving license. If they have been working for the company for over 6 months. If competent and authorized to do so. If they are the site manager or supervisor.
Which of the following does not have to be recorded in the accident book? Details of the injury sustained. The injured person's national insurance number. the injured person's home address, the date and time that the injury happened. You suffer an injury at work and the details are recorded in the accident book. What must happen to this accident record? It must be treated as confidential under data protection laws. It must be destroyed at the end of the job due to confidentiality. It must be sent to the insurance company at the end of the job. It must be kept in a place where anyone at work can read it.
Which of the following statements best describes a near miss? An incident where someone was injured and nearly had to take time off work. An incident where someone was injured and nearly had to go to hospital. An incident where you were just too late to see what happened. An incident that nearly resulted in injury or damage.
When must an accident be recorded in the accident book? If a person is injured in any way. Only if a person has to attend hospital. If a person has a day off work with a cold. Only if a person suffers a broken bone. Which two of the following are the main reasons for reporting accidents, incidents and near misses? Certain incidents or accidents have to be reported to the Health and Safety Executive, HSE, to find out whom claims should be made against, to help the company avoid being prosecuted or fined, to understand how and why things went wrong, to make sure none of the supervisors find out about the accident. Which of the following is the least important reason for recording all accidents? Some accidents have to be reported to the Health and Safety Executive, HS. Details have to be entered in the accident book. It might stop them happening again. To find out who is to blame and make sure they are prosecuted.
Who must you report a serious accident to? Site security, the ambulance service, the police service, your employer,
You have been injured in an accident at work and, as a result, are absent for more than 7 days. Which two of the following actions must be taken? Your employer must inform the Health and Safety Executive, HSE. The local hospital and the benefits office must be informed. The emergency services must be called to find out how the accident happened. You must pay for any first aid equipment used to treat your injury. The accident must be recorded in the accident book. What must be done if an operator is driving plant equipment faster than site speed limits? Alert all other staff on site to be careful. Wait until they stop and talk to them about it. Shout at the driver telling them to slow down. Inform a supervisor or manager.
Which two of the following items should be recorded in the accident book? Injuries sustained. Date of the accident. Telephone number. Location of the hospital. National insurance number. When must an accident be recorded? Only when a person breaks a major bone or is concussed. Only when a person is injured and will be off work for 3 days or more. Only when an accident causes damage to plant or equipment. Only when an accident causes injury to a worker as a result of working activities.
You are injured in an accident at work. When should you report it? The next day before you start work. Immediately or as soon as possible. At the end of the day before you go home. Only if you have to take time off work.
A scaffold has collapsed and you saw it happen. What should you say when you are asked about the accident? Who you think should be blamed and punished. As little as possible because you don't want to get people into trouble. Exactly what you saw, giving as much detail as possible. As little as possible, as you are not a scaffold expert.
Who is responsible for reporting any unsafe conditions on site? Everyone on the construction site. The site manager. The contracts manager. The client or principal contractor.
When an accident or near miss occurs, who should be involved in the investigation? Company investors, company directors, the owner of the company, all relevant staff.
Where should accidents that cause any injury be recorded? In the building inspector's diary. In the site engineer's daybook. In the accident report book. In the main contractor's diary. Why should you report an accident? It is a legal requirement. It helps the site find out who caused it, so that everyone can find out what happened, so that your company will be held responsible.
When must an entry be made in the accident book? When a worker has been off sick for 3 days. When a compensation claim is completed. Only if the accident involved broken bones. When an accident causes injury to any worker.
Why is it important to report near-miss incidents on site? To find someone to blame so claims can be made. It is the law to report all near-miss incidents. It is a requirement of the CDM regulations. To learn from them and stop them happening again.
What action should be taken if you witness a serious accident on site? Ask your workmates what they think you should do. Telephone the local doctor for advice. Say nothing in case you get someone into trouble. Tell your supervisor that you saw what happened.
If you have a minor accident, who should report it? The subcontractor, the Health and Safety Executive, HSE, anyone who saw the accident. You, if possible.
In order to reduce the risk of accidents, which one of the following should be avoided when driving vehicles on site? Implement a one-way system around the site. Reverse without the use of a vehicle marshaller. Use designated turning areas. Drive through loading and unloading areas. If you find an injured person and you are on your own, what should you do first? Move the injured person to a safe place, then find your supervisor. Assess the situation. Do not put yourself in danger. Inform your supervisor that someone has been injured. Ask the injured person what happened and then find your supervisor. Where should you be given information about emergency assembly points? In the permit to work, in the method statement, in the risk assessment, at the site induction. What should not be in a first aid kit? Tablets and medicines, safety pins, plasters, bandages. You witness a serious accident on site. What immediate action should you take? Give 2 answers. Record the date and time in the incident book. Check if it is safe to approach the injured person. Sit the injured person up and give them food and water. Lift the injured person and take them to the site office. Call out to other workers so they can call for help. What information should be gathered after a near-miss incident occurs? Where those involved lived at the time of the incident. The activities that were being carried out at the time. The cost of the project at the time of the incident. The names of next of kin for the people involved.
A first aider is required to have which one of the following? They must have a full and clean police check. They must be a qualified nurse. They are expected to have doctor-level certificates. They should have a current, up-to-date First Aid at Work certificate.
How should you be informed about what to do in an emergency? Give 2 answers. By reading the site notice boards. By asking at the local hospital. By looking in the health and safety file. By asking the Health and Safety Executive, HSE. By attending the site induction.
What should be done in the event of an emergency on site? Collect your personal items and leave the site. Phone the Health and Safety Executive, HSE, for advice. Leave the site by the nearest exit and return home. Follow the site emergency procedure. If the first aid kit on site is empty, what should you do? Bring your own first aid supplies into work. Inform the person who looks after the first aid kit. Ignore the problem as it is always the same. Find out who is taking all the first aid supplies.
What 2 things should you do if there is an emergency situation on site? Go to the designated assembly point. Collect personal items from the site office. Leave the area via the nearest exit. Finish what you are doing. Look for other people who may not know what to do.
If you cut your finger and it won't stop bleeding, what should you do? Tell your colleagues because you may need to rest. Wrap something around it and carry on working. Find a first aider or get medical help. Wash it, then carry on working.
Which 2 of the following will help you to find out about the site emergency procedures and emergency telephone numbers? Reading the site notice boards. Attending the site induction. Looking in the telephone directory. Guidance from the Health and Safety Executive HSE website. Guidance from your local job centre.
Someone working in a deep inspection chamber has collapsed. What should you do first? Ask someone to find your supervisor while you try to rescue the worker. Raise the alarm and stay by the inspection chamber, but do not enter. Climb into the inspection chamber and give first aid treatment. Get someone to lower you into the inspection chamber on a rope. Evacuation routes should be used as assembly points, clear and unobstructed, lit at all times of the day, painted bright green,
What is the one thing a first aider cannot do? Stop any bleeding. Give you medicines without authorization. Give mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Treat you if you are unconscious. If there is an emergency while you are on site, what should you do first? Phone home and then leave the site. Leave the site and go home. Phone the Health and Safety Executive, HSE. Follow the site emergency procedure.
Someone is knocked unconscious and you are not trained in first aid. What should you do first? Send for medical help. Turn them over so that they are lying on their back. Give them mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Slap their face to wake them up.
If someone is in contact with a live cable, what should you do first? Pull them away from the cable. Dial 999 and ask for an ambulance. Phone the electricity company. Isolate the power and call for help.
How would you expect to find out the location of the emergency assembly point? During a visit by the Health and Safety Executive, HSE. During the site induction. By reading your employer's health and safety policy. Your colleagues will tell you. Someone collapses with stomach pain and there is no first aider on site. What should you do first? Help them to lie down in the recovery position. Ask someone to call the emergency services. Get them to take some painkillers. Ask them to sit down.
Which of the following best describes an assembly point? Where the employer issues personal protective equipment. A place to assemble in the event of an emergency. The place where an incident could be started. The location that staff should avoid in an incident.
Does your employer have to provide a first aid kit? No, there is no legal duty to provide one. Only if more than 25 people work on site. Yes, every site must have one. Only if more than 50 people work on site.
Someone has fallen from height and has no feeling in their legs. What should you do? Keep them still until medical help arrives. Raise their legs to see if any feeling comes back. Keep their legs straight and roll them onto their back. Roll them onto their side and bend their legs. If you think that someone has broken their leg, what should you do? Place them on their back. Send for the first aider or get other medical help. Place them on their side in the recovery position. Use your belt to strap their legs together.
Personal protective equipment, PPE, should be worn at work for what reason? It prevents workers from getting their uniforms dirty. It prevents any exposure to hazardous chemicals. To protect workers from physical injury or ill health. To protect the company against potential lawsuits.
What should you do if you drop your safety helmet from a height onto a hard surface? Stop work until you get a new one. Repair any cracks and then carry on wearing it. Work without it until you can get a new one. Make sure there are no cracks and then carry on wearing it. Which of the following figures is wearing the correct personal protective equipment, PPE? What will safety footwear with a protective midsole protect you from? Nails or sharp objects which could puncture the sole of your foot. Spillages which may burn the sole of your foot. Blisters which could occur in warm, wet conditions. Twisting your ankle as they have better grip than regular shoes. When you start a new task, how will you know if you need any extra personal protective equipment, PPE? By looking at your employer's health and safety policy. By looking at the risk assessment. You will always need it. By looking at the company web page. Will all types of glove protect your hands against chemicals? Only if you put barrier cream on your hands first. Yes, all gloves are made to the same standard. No, different gloves protect against different types of hazard. Only if you cover the gloves with barrier cream. Which condition could be prevented if the correct gloves are worn while handling a hazardous substance? Raynaud's syndrome, vibration white finger, skin disease, arthritis. Good quality personal protective equipment, PPE, will be marked with which letter or letters? C, HSE, R, CE. Which of the following statements about wearing a safety helmet in hot weather is true? You can modify it to keep your head cool. You can wear it back to front if it is more comfortable that way. You must wear it at all times and in the right way. You must take it off during the hottest part of the day. What is the main risk to this worker wearing only these items of personal protective equipment, PPE? Damage to hearing, eye injuries, dermatitis to skin, breathing in harmful dust. When selecting appropriate personal protective equipment, PPE, what is the most important factor to be taken into account? The cost of the equipment. Can it be recycled? How long it will last? The type of hazard. Which of the following statements about personal protective equipment, PPE, is not true? You must pay for any damage or loss. You must use it as instructed. You must report any damage or loss to your supervisor. You must store it correctly when you're not using it. When should you wear safety footwear on site? Only when working inside. Until the site starts to look finished. All the time. Only when working at ground level.
When must your employer provide you with personal protective equipment, PPE? If you need to be protected. If you pay for it. If it is in the contract. Twice a year.
When selecting suitable personal protective equipment, PPE, for the user, which factors should be considered? Fit and weight. Price and size. Cost and colour. Size and fit.
What should you do if your disposable foam earplugs keep falling out? Throw them away and work without them. Put rolled up tissue paper in each ear instead. Stop work until you are shown how to fit them properly. Put 2 earplugs in each ear so that they stay in place.
When is the only time that you do not need to wear head protection on site? If you are working alone. If you are self-employed. If you are working in hot weather. If you are in a safe area, like the site office.
Where on the body would a worker wear respiratory protective equipment, RPE? Which item of personal protective equipment, PPE, is helping to protect the worker from dermatitis? If you need to wear a full body harness and have not used one before, what should you do? Ask for expert advice and training. Try to work it out for yourself. Ask someone wearing a harness to show you what to do. Read the manufacturer's instruction book.
What should you do if your personal protective equipment, PPE, gets damaged? Throw it away and work without it. Carry on wearing it, but work more quickly. Try to repair it, then carry on working. Stop work and continue only when it has been replaced.
Who should provide you with any personal protective equipment, PPE, you need, including the means to maintain it? No one has a duty to provide it. You must buy your own. Anyone on site with a budget? Your employer?
If you have to work outdoors in bad weather, why should your employer supply you with waterproof clothing? To protect you from the weather, which will reduce trips and falls. To protect you from the weather, as you are less likely to get muscle strains if you are warm and dry. To keep you warm and dry, so you are less likely to catch Weil's disease. To keep you warm and dry, so you take fewer breaks. When using a grinder or cut-off saw, what type of eye protection should be worn? Reading glasses or sunglasses, welding goggles. Light eye protection, safety glasses. Impact-rated goggles or full face shield.
What should you wear if there is a risk of materials flying into your eyes? Laser safety glasses, tinted welding goggles, chemical-rated goggles, impact-rated goggles.
Do you have to pay for any personal protective equipment, PPE, you need? Yes, you must pay for all of it. Only if you need to replace lost or damaged PPE. No, your employer must pay for it. No, you only have to pay half the cost. What additional measures can be worn under a hard hat in cold weather? A woolly hat, a manufacturer's attachment, a jumper with a detachable hood, a baseball cap. How should a safety helmet be worn to get maximum protection from it? Square on your head, back to front, pulled forward, pushed back on your head. Why is it bad practice to store heavy materials underneath a tree? Compaction of the soil could damage the tree roots. Materials are not protected from the tree sap. The tree branches could get damaged. Mold could grow on the stored materials. Which two of the following are common causes of water pollution on site? Fuels being stored incorrectly and too close to drains. Walkways freezing in winter near drainage systems. Rainwater washing material out of skips into surface water drains. Smoking and e-smoking near drainage systems. Exhaust gases from mobile plant getting into drainage systems. Certain species of plants and animals in England are protected by law. A worker is breaking the law if they do which two things to the plant or animal? report it, destroy its habitat, remove it, feed it, photograph it,